Yeah, 13, 14, 15. Oh, these are.
On the final, is that the final review?
No, it's on the packet, it's 13, 14, 15.
Oh, on the
C,
Alkane
main-
packet.
Practice name.
On the Alkanes?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they were, oh wait, no, it's not practice name. Yeah, it is.
Okay, so this is on the naming. This is on the naming Alkanes packet. So-
Yes.
Yeah.
13, 14,
Okay.
15, and then these ones.
All right, so we have some questions on the naming Alkanes packet, this one that you were doing in class. So 13 through 16, you said? Yeah, I think either we got cut short, I think I mentioned it in the other class, not in here, for the halogens. Sometimes halogens attach to the chain and they take the place of one of the hydrogens. And what you do is you kind of do the same thing as when there's like methyl groups attached. You just count which carbon it is and then put chloro or fluoro or whatever it is at that place. And they actually take priority over the methyl groups, like when you're numbering it, if there's a methyl group and a halogen group,
So do the halogen.
you do the halogen, number it so the halogen gets the lowest possible number. And then everything else follows from that. Does that make sense? So the halogens take precedence over the alkyl groups. So for 13, the numbering's not a issue because it's only 2 carbons, so it's going to be off the first carbon regardless. I would have drawn it that way just to emphasize that the chlorine is coming off that carbon. So all you're going to do there, it's just going to be, since there's only 2 carbons, it has to be off the first carbon unless there's something attached to both of them.
Okay.
That if there's something attached to both of them, then you have to put the numbers down. But this would just be chloro ethane, because we have the ethane molecule and it's a chlorine attached to it. So it's just simply chloroethane.
Okay.
If it would have been a longer molecule with more carbons, we would have to say 1 chloroethane. It can only be off the first one. And that's the case number 14.
And then would it be like fluoro?
Yes.
Fluoro.
Yep. Yeah, all you do is take the ene off the halogens and put chloro, fluoro, bromo,
Okay.
iodo.
And for this one, you would have to number it from right to left, right?
Correct. So this would be 1 because you number it this way, 1, 2, 3. So it's 1 fluoro propane.
And then the next one doesn't matter, right? How you number it.
It does, but it's a 3 carbon chain.
Yeah. But
Oh,
it's in the
you mean
middle.
the direction? Yeah, no, the direction doesn't matter. It's going to be off the second carbon.
But then would
do
you have to put a 2 there?
What would it be?
Yeah, you do have to put the 2 in the name.
Bromo.
Yep.
Bromo.
Right. So it's off the second carbon regardless which way you number. So 2 bromo.
Okay, good.
So then we just, oh, so we just, oh.
Just the same way you did like methyl or ethyl or whatever. It's just
And then you just do it.
16.
Would we have to write, we already did that.
Oh, okay.
We don't need any more of those. We just needed
12 on the next part.
Okay.
Yeah, can you show us how to put that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So turning over to page 7, numbers, is it 12 through like
12 through 16.
16?
We can just do number 12.
Well, can you do 12? Yeah, 12 and 15.
Sure.
Actually, no. do 16.
Was that misspelled?
Oh, I don't know. 15 and 16. Oh, They just changed the number. Yeah, they put, for some reason, it's an odd, they meant chloro for number 16.
Okay, oh, okay.
So then just do 15 and 12.
Okay. So 12 was, it's just going the opposite way. We just named this one on the other side, chloroethane. So what I always do is start with the base and draw that. It's also helpful sometimes just to put your C's in and then add the hydrogens later so that you know how many.
Oh,
Does that
wait.
make sense?
So for these ones, you didn't want the lines?
You can do them either way. I'll put them
Okay.
both ways.
Oh, okay.
You should be able to recognize both ways because I think on the Penn College exam, they have them either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So chloroethane, it doesn't matter which carbon you put the chlorine on because it just reflected it. And it doesn't matter if you put it upside, whatever. Okay. So I'm just gonna put it there. After you attach your stuff, if you're drawing it this way, for your hydrogens, you just have to make sure that every carbon has 4 total bonds on it. So this carbon already has 2 of the 4, right? So it's going to need 2 hydrogens attached to it to make 4 total bonds. So it's going to be CH2 if you're drawing it this way. And then this carbon only has 1 bond, right? So it needs 3 more hydrogens.
Yeah.
That's how you come up with the hydrogens. When you're drawing it using the stick model, you don't put the hydrogens in anyway, it's just understood. So for the stick model, for this one, it's kind of weird. It's just a line, like 2 carbons. And then you would just attach a chlorine to it, like using a line. And you could attach the chlorine here, 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 or here.
We could write CL in it.
You have to write the Cl because otherwise it's indicating that it's a meth. There's
Okay.
nothing.
Makes sense. Okay.
And then do
And then
15.
15.
Yeah.
Two chloro, 3 methyl. So again, I'll do it both ways with the stick model. So the pentane means I have 5 carbons. Just going to draw that first. Then I have a chlorine coming off the 2nd carbon and a methyl coming off the 3rd carbon. It doesn't matter if you go up or down, it's one down. Alternate them. And then I'm just going to put my hydrogens in. So this carbon only has 1 of its 4 bonds, so it's going to be 3 hydrogens attached to it. This has 3 of the 4, so it only needs 1 hydrogen. This has 3 of the 4, so it's 1 hydrogen. This has 2 of the 4. This has 1. And then if you're doing the stick model, 5. And you would just take a chlorine off of here, but when it's a methyl group, you can just go like that. So it's understood that it's attached to a carbon.
Okay. I think we're good, except for we have.
Yeah, the only difference between
Oh,
15
yeah.
and 16 is that you've just moved the methyl group to the 4th carbon. So,
And then we had questions for the knitting alkene worksheet.
okay.
We tried it on our own, but we wanted to make sure that we did.
Oh, you did that.
Well, yeah, but remember we didn't.
And I will tell you that the very last one on the ones that you had to draw,
That would be the drawing.
they have the wrong name. I just found it. The very last one on the bottom of this back, they have the wrong name there. I'll go with that.
Okay,
But
So,
the way they have it named is possible. It's not.
okay, so can we try? And then the double bond on the first one, so we just do one.
Correct.
Like that.
Yep. And that has actually.
So. Oh, you did 2 lines.
Yeah, just show the double bond. You can see this for 2, 3, Oh, that's so easy.
I'm just gonna,
We'll go that way.
okay, so if you look at the very last one, the naming Alkanes worksheet on the back, where you had to draw it, they actually have it named incorrectly, but let's draw it the way they have it.
And then two.
Yeah. Maybe try one.
Okay, so if we have 2-ethyl, 3,4-dimethyl, 2-pentene. When you draw these, you kind of work backwards. So I always draw the pentene part first.
On the third one.
So since it's 2-pentene, that means the double bond is between the second and third carbon. And then they're telling us that we have an ethyl group off the second carbon and methyl groups off the third and fourth.
Like,
Okay, this carbon doesn't have any hydrogens because it's already got its 4 bonds. This one has 4 bonds. This one has 3, so it's just 1 hydrogen. And CH3. So if we draw the structure the way they told us, that's what we get, but then we end up realizing that that name is not correct for that. Because we can actually get a 6 carbon continuous chain instead of a 5 carbon continuous chain, right? So then you number it so that the double bond gets the lowest possible number. So we'd want to go left to right because that gives us off the third carbon. If we go this way, it would be, oh, that's also off the third carbon. So I guess it's three methyl groups. So then the methyl groups would be the ones to determine which way we number it. So if we number it left to right, we've got the methyls off the third, fourth, and fifth. If we number it right to left, it would be off the second, third, and fourth. So that's the way we want to number it. Okay. So does everybody understand that part?
Yeah.
Like the double bond normally takes precedence in numbering, right? But in this one, it wouldn't, that doesn't matter which way we number it. So then we fall back to the methyl groups. So we number it the way they would get the lowest possible numbers, since either direction is going to give us 3 hexene. So we want to go right to left because then it's off the second, third, and fourth carbons. So we'd actually name this 2, 3, 4. Trimethyl 3 hexene. That would be the correct name. And did I point out to you guys too that there is a newer way of naming these? That instead of putting the 3 in front of here, it would just be 2, 3, 4 trimethyl hex. And then you put the 3 in front of it.
Why?
Okay.
I mean,
They're both acceptable ways. This was the way I learned, and I think it's still commonly around. But the IUPAC, that's the organization that makes naming rules, for some reason, made a newer system where you put the number in front of the E, meaning, because the E comes from the double bond, so it's saying it's off the third carbon, the double bonds up. Does that make sense? So you might see it either way when you're looking at these. So if you see a name where it's the numbers in the middle of the name with the ending, it just means the same thing as this. And then did I tell you too that if this didn't have any chains that had two double bonds, did I tell you that that means diene?
No.
Like if you have two double bonds in the chain, then it's a diene, meaning there's two double bonds. We have to have two numbers for the double bonds. So for example, let's just look at one. I had trouble finding a worksheet that had everything I wanted on it without either getting too complex or too simplified. So I couldn't find one that had dienes on it as well. Oh, if you did this one with the stick, then six, since we're doing it this way, then you would just have, so your double bond between the third and fourth, and you have methyl groups off the second.
And then is our final for the college course on paper?
It's not, it's on that lockdown browser. Through Penn College, you have to go into your Plato account. So we're gonna have to practice that before the final exam.
Did you ever figure out what size paper?
I didn't get an official email from them, but I'll check back to last year and I'm pretty sure it was email.
So just like a sheet in your piece of paper.
Yeah. But I'll look back to last year. And I'll double check with them just to be sure that it's fine. I have to get dates with them anyway, like when your finals are.
Do you have like a list of like what all is gonna be on the final? It's like a list of
Well,
what topics.
See, I don't make the finals, so I can't, but I just printed off and I'll give it to you. I just printed off the final exam review from Penn College, the one that they made with their class,
Okay.
which is the same class as this that they
Okay.
teach there. And I'll give you that today, and it has all the objectives, and then it has practice problems, all the objectives, practice problems.
Okay.
And then you can just go through that, anything that you come across that you're not sure of,
I wanna
then
know
you
what,
can ask me.
like,
And I think I put it on Canvas today too.
I wanna start writing a list of all the things that are gonna be on it, so I can like, and go off of that and be like, okay, I need this, I need this, I
Right.
need this. And we're allowed to have our periodic tables too, right?
Yeah, and they actually have, I think they have a periodic table for you too. It's
Okay.
right on the site.
And what
too,
about
but
like
it's
all the
easier if
ion
you have it.
sheets? And the
Yeah,
same
last year they told
tables?
me that any tables I gave you,
You might need to
be able to
reprint all those
use.
tables, not.
I'll go back through. But I think I did that last year. I just printed the packet.
Mhm.
But they had told me last year, any tables that they allowed you to use in class, you could use them.
So what if those tables have like on the instant? Well, they kind of do, but like, what if you just give examples in the table, and we have to encode it, like you have it encrypted, nobody will know. Nobody will know.
All right, so let's take a look at dying, just so that you kind of get the idea of what I meant.
Oh, what? A diamond, two double bonds.
It might have two different double bonds in the chain, and you just say dying, or three double bonds in the triene. Let's throw in a couple extra. Make it more fun.
Obviously. So are we still gonna learn new stuff after this, or was this last thing?
This is the last stuff that I was going over. This was the stuff that last year they told me wasn't going to be on the final, and then it was. So I just wanted to be sure I went over it with you guys, because the other class last year, I was starting to go over it, and then I got an email from them that said, oh, we didn't get to this, so we're not gonna put it on the final. And
And
then
they did.
it was on the final, yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. So they missed questions because
They know. what to do.
I didn't go over it. And then I even went back and reread my email just to be sure that I wasn't mistaken.
Well,
So
did
I
they
don't
like
know.
give them any sort of credit for it because they emailed you?
No. I never heard back from them. Yeah. They just got their scores on the test.
Wait, when will we get our scores back?
I think it scores it right away because it's, you do everything right.
Oh, and
on the
then you submit
computer,
it in it.
And it gives you your
But
score.
what about, do we have like open-ended responses at all?
I think it's all,
Multiple choice?
pretty sure it's all multiple choice, yeah. Unless you had to type in an answer, I'm not sure, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, what about like problems like these with the lines? Do you think they'll just have multiple choice?
those will be multiple choice,
Okay.
yeah, because there's no way you're gonna be able to draw them out.
I just found something in my notes.
All right, so if we're doing this one, this has two double bonds, right? And again, the double bonds take precedence in how you're numbering them. So we want to number it so that the double bonds get the lowest possible numbers. So we're going to go left to right here. This is my longest chain, right? This way. So 1, 2, 3, it's off the first and third carbon. So when we're naming this, it's going to be 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is my chain, right? So when there's two double bonds, instead of just saying octene, which would be the one double bond, you say octadiene. Then we also have to put our methyl groups out here. But since there's two double bonds, it's off the first and third carbon. We can't just say octene, we have to say octadiene, diene, meaning two double bonds. Or the other method, instead of putting the 1 and 3 in front. That would be the other way of naming it. We still have to attach our methyl groups to that, but that's the ending. So, or our methyl and ethyl groups. So we're gonna put the ethyl first because that comes first in alphabetical order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ethyl. 1, 2, 3, 4 methyl, right? So when you're naming these, it's kind of weird because you have to kind of go backwards, right? You have to find your longest chain first and then go backwards to see what's attached to it. So we start with the 3-octadiene or oct-1,3-diene. You just put the stuff that's attached to it then.
5 ethyl.
So either one of these is acceptable. I think on your Penn College, they're gonna do it this way, but I wanted to just throw that in just in case they're going by the newer rules.
Yeah,
Those newer rules must have come out since I've had it in industry, 30-some years ago.
when you have your cool hair.
So
Can you
this
wear
is
your
how I
wig?
learned. This is-
Can you wear a wig? If we all do really good. Wear a wig. No, it's. You can't make that deal. When we're taking the final, can you wear the wig to cheer us up?
Now remember me.
That's a question about the review right for the final. Remember? Because we don't have a third period final. We don't have a third period final. And it's a day where we won't have to come in if we don't want to. Do you have a third period?
Yes, that's why I'm in the class.
We already knew that. I said that yesterday. I forgot. Because we wanted to come in here and review before we went to final. We forgot. We said we were gonna go to Miss. Davis. I remember.
Oh, yeah, she would be able, you mean,
We can go to
You're
Miss
gonna ask
Davis's room. Yeah, she's my business starter teacher.
okay, yeah, because she has background in this too.
But
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay, yes.
I won't be in the last day of school, and that's
Chip should
what
probably.
third, what,
All right, so would you want to come in and take it with the other class? So
That'll be the
Oh.
same day.
it's the same day. What,
what about fifth period?
Yeah, I can,
We don't have that.
yeah, and fifth period is your lab period, right? And I don't have a class on the other days, on A days, so yeah, that would work. Yeah. Trying to think through the schedule. Schedule's all messed up, so yeah, we'll make sure that we can, because since the college final, like, there's no way you can come back and take it or anything like that, so.
Really? I didn't.
Right.
You did good.
Any other questions? Yeah,
Well, we had
I was just
questions on the
gonna-
review. We will read tomorrow, the whole double period.
yeah, I mean,
Can you show us that sheet? Yeah, that sheet.
oh, yeah, I'll hand it out, the other review sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you do that so I can
Yeah.
start writing down?
Well, let me just end the recording.
We need a list. We need at least.